How you guys doing? Hero of None here. We're going to be going into some stuff with our weekly ESO tonight with PvP. Now, if you haven't gotten into PvP, it starts at level 10. You can come into any campaign and join through Cyrodiil. And on top of that, there's a few things I'd like to get into, mainly with the Siege. So you're a new player, you're coming into it, you need some information about how to get some AP, how to help your alliance. Siege is the way you want to go with it. So, currently we're in PvP right now, as you can see with the big map. All this big stuff here. And you get into PvP by hitting, I use it on L key. You might have something different bind depending on where you're going. But as you can see, you get several different campaigns. Now, if you're below 50 and you don't have a lot of CP, I do recommend either the below 50 or the non-CP campaigns, just for starting out. You're going to right click any of these here. And you either want to go home or guest. You see, we're already homed here, but as soon as you're in here, you can enter the campaign. So you got to home or guest it, and then you enter it. And then you get a whole bunch of information here. You know, the scoring, the bonus, who has emperorship, etc. We're not going to get into that today, though. We're going to get into Siege. And Siege is a good way to get AP. It's a good way to help your alliance, especially if you're a low level. You have several different types of Siege as well. And as you can see here, most of the Siege that you use is bound to your quick wheel key. Now, first and foremost, the simple stuff is Catapults, Trebuchets, and Ballistas. Catapults, we'll start off here. Catapults have a short range, a relatively low shooting point here, and can be done rather quickly as well. They don't do a whole lot of damage against walls, but they do some pretty good damage against enemies and have some different effects to them. What we're using right now is a meat bag catapult, which will reduce healing to enemies in it, as well as damage them as well. So it's a good one to be putting onto a group of enemies. As you can see, that little red thing comes in there as well as you fire it off. Now, I am using fist camera position. As you notice, as I turn, it slowly turns the siege weapon, and then turns green when we're ready to fire, which is really helpful, because it's fire it off, you can turn, face some different direction here while it's still reloading, and then when it's reloaded, you're all set to go. Now, next up, Trebuchets. Trebuchets are much slower. Much slower than a catapult, much slower than a ballista. However, they do a crap ton of damage and do it in a relatively large area here. Currently, we're using a stone trebuchet. This comes in fire and ice as well. Fire does a lingering fire dot to enemies. And ice does drain stamina as well as snares enemies that get hit. Stone is primarily used for walls to try taking them down. Just stow that. Lastly, we have ballistas. Ballistas are about moderately fired rate, have a slightly higher arc than the catapults, but a lower arc than the trebuchets that you want to use. They come in fire, lightning, and stone. Stone, again, not stone, but it's like just standard ballista. But fire will, again, put a dot on enemies, a little bit less than the fire trebuchet. And the lightning one will drain magicka if it hits anyone in that area. So it's useful to get a combination of stuff going on depending on what you're dealing with. Trebuchets also do a good amount of damage against other siege. Doesn't do a great amount of damage to walls except for the stone one, and you can use that for varying different reasons here. Now, thing to remember here as well, we're doing this on top of a keep. I'm going to drop down here a minute and show you what it looks like down below here. But part of the thing that you want to remember is the positioning that you use can affect the range that you can get here. So firing on top here, you can get further distances than you can if you're firing it from down there. That's sort of important depending on where you're looking at. Certain siege camps here, like, for example, up here in Elysia here, this is up on top of a hill here. And given its position, you can actually set siege on top of your siege tower here and shoot down into the keep pretty easily without any having to worry about any enemies coming near you, because you're up here. They have to climb all the way up, get around, and then you can actually fight in that area here. Versus the mine, which is a little bit more sunken in, and the lumber mill, which is really sunken in, and the siege simply will not reach the keep from either of these two locations unless they move closer. But meanwhile, the farm here, kind of important position to hold. Now, that covers it for projectile stuff here. Now, some of the other stuff you have here is things like oil. Oil is an interesting item here. So, putting it up here, you can dump it through this little crevice here. You have to be a little bit careful here, though. This area that you need to get it through is a little rough. If you do it here, for example, all you're basically doing is doing it right here, and it's not actually going to do any damage if you do it at the same level as this. Oil is typically used around areas and breaches, front doors, and anywhere that somebody is going in and sieging the side of a door. As you can see here, you can hit that pretty easily there. You can also put it into sneaky little locations here. So, let's say this door is breached in the front, and we want to go ahead and... we don't want to let them know that we have siege up. People have been known to put two oil pots right here, and dumping it in as the team starts to come in. So they think it's safe, end up in a bunch of oil, and die pretty immediately. And the other one that we have here is a battering ram. Now, currently we're not close enough to an enemy keep. I could go over and get one, but it's a little bit annoying here. But basically, you set one up here, and you need at least 3 people on it to hit a gate door like this. If you don't have 3, it's not going to work. The more that you put onto it, at least up to 6, the faster it goes. But again, as you saw there, we're going to have oil being dropped on top of us here. Important thing to remember with oil, though, is there are safe spots to it. So if there's oil up in these 2 locations, if you stack straight right here, see where I am right here? Right in this location, you'll be able to help the siege here, and the oil will not touch you. If it's up in this little gray area, that's where it's a little trouble. That's where it's going to do you damage. However, you saw how limited amount of space that you have in the tight little kind of hole you have to dump it in through. You may only get one of those, which you can heal through. So, like, remember, if you get in the corners here with some healers, you can actually survive oil quite a long time as long as you get in there. But keep in mind, they may also be putting out other siege on the parapets here to be able to try hitting you and stopping what you're doing. Now, just kind of show something else here as well. The trebuchet, like I mentioned before, it's important to remember some of the mechanics to these siege, because the trebuchet, like I mentioned, was a very high arc. And one of the reasons that's useful is, as you can see here, we can hit on top of these areas here and hit enemy siege, enemy players in these areas. Keep in mind that the reticle that we're using isn't always accurate, so sometimes when it seems like we can do that, but you're like kind of very skimming it, like I'll try doing it here to show off, like we're very close to that. You see how we're coming close to the edge? I'll fire this off. We're probably gonna hit the side of the... See? We hit that there, so don't expect it to always follow the crosshair where it says it's gonna go. It doesn't always quite match. But the reason that this is important here is if you try, you know, doing everything with, let's say, a ballista, you can't lift it any higher than this. This is it. You can't go any higher than this, which means, you know, you're trying to hit people on top of the wall, not from this location. You're going to actually have to pull yourself back into higher ground to get those enemies. Now, it's also I'd also say it's fairly important to remember that catapults and ballistas are typically used for taking out enemies. Trebuchets are made for taking out walls, especially stone trebuchets, and standard ballistas as well. Don't try to use them on players. Better off using the wall and getting that wall down immediately if possible. Oil is also against players, but not really good against, and also anything that's within range, like a ballista or trebuchet. Won't do any damage against an actual wall, so don't even try that, okay? Now, on top of that, we have a few other items here, which are more support items here. I'm going to just go ahead and put one of them in here. Now, the wood repair kits here will actually repair doors, and only doors. And it's really important to do this as well, because doors are probably the fastest way to get into a keep, especially if the mill is down. The mill here will give a bonus to the keep, to the door. So if the mill is down, these doors will go down pretty quick. Next, the Masonry Repair Kit is to repair walls. Now, walls you get bonuses given from the mine, and also enemies will typically try to ninja a keep by coming around a corner here where somebody might not be paying attention and just trying to siege it down and, like, you know, bring this down to 50%, bring the keep down to 50%, and then be able to bash their way in. And then finally, we have siege repair kits. Now, siege repair kits are very useful to spread your money around. So, you see that our fire ballista here is at 21%. We use one siege repair kit. And we're up to 38%. Use another one. Up to 56%. And we can use this again. And some siege will cost AP, some will cost gold. The stuff that costs AP is usually pretty good, and you want to keep it around. Now, the really, really nice stuff, the Dominion, the cold fire stuff, comes in trebuchets and ballistas. This stuff will mess you up. If you see the blue fire stuff, avoid it at all costs. It will kill you. It will one-shot you. Even with heals, it will kill you. So, keep away from this stuff, and if you get it, use it, keep it around, repair it with siege repair kits to save your money, and that's going to go a long way to help you. And finally is Dominion forward camps here. Dominion forward camps, you have to put on very flat terrain. So you can see, you can put it into this area here if you want to. But it's typically used in areas where you have to defend, but you cannot spawn back at your keep. So if any of these things are under attack, you can't spawn in that location here. We're in PvP right now, but I'm surprised there's nothing actually really flagged right at this moment here. But regardless, if something is flagged, you're going to be unable to spawn at it. If you're in the range of a field camp, you're able to spawn back in that area of that. If you're trying to get yourself over into an area I'm trying to bloodport, that doesn't work anymore if you're used to the old siege kits. You actually have to be within the range, and they only have about 20 uses or so. But typically with sieges, especially long sieges, if a keep is flagged, a team will put up a forward camp in either location just to try keeping their numbers up. You also have a timeout of about, I think, 5 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, before you can use the siege camp after you've already used it once. Now, if you're looking to get AP, my tip for most players, and especially new players, is repair, repair, repair. Repairing nets a shit ton of AP, and honestly, that's how a lot of people get their emperorship. They don't even actually do any fights. They just go ahead, come in, get a defensive tick, repair the keep, and then leave. That's it. It's pretty simple. And yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but unless ZOS fixes it or patches it, that's kind of how it's going to be. Just going to have to go, let's see here. Let's take a look at Ash here real quick. Just to give an example here. But hopefully, since I'm giving you guys this tip, and everyone's going to be go ahead and repair this stuff, that means that there's going to be less AP for these guys to be farming. Actually, I can't find anyone. Oh, here we go. I think. Usually you want to be looking for something that's broken, like, you know, has scaffolding on it, all this good stuff. Yeah, it's currently, Oh, wait. Yep. There we go. Yeah, just that little bit there. And from that, you get about 50 AP per repair. And whenever things improve or upgrade, typically the keep walls need fixing, and the wall or the doors need fixing as well. Now you can get all of this from your siege merchant here.
The Dominion requires your best.
Thank you. As you can see here, you can buy Masonry Repair Kits for gold. You can also buy it for AP. Typically, people will buy stacks of these, buy multiple. 100. And then just, you know, purchase all of that. Door repair kits. Usually people will buy less of these because doors repair pretty quick, and there's less of them to repair as well. As you can see, oil, it costs AP. Stone trebuchets cost AP. All the catapults here. Oh, I should also mention, oil catapults, snare. Scatter shot will just basically do a mass range of rock damage to enemies. Lightning will also drains their magicka. Ice and snares and drains their stamina. Fire pots basically hits enemies, hits keeps, and also puts a dot on them. You can buy fire pot and fire ballistas for gold. Everything else is for AP here, of course. Dominion battering rams and Dominion ballistas as well. So that pretty much covers siege and what you can use here. Cold fire. Unfortunately, you have to actually go out and go do dolmens to get that. Dolmens exist throughout Cyrodiil. One minute here while I turn this on here. Objectives, there we go. So go off, do dolmens. Hopefully you get a cold fire siege out of the chest, and if you do, you can start using that on players. Anyways, guys, that's siege items inside PvP. Hope that helps you. And if you're going to be enjoying PvP, well, just get behind some siege. Anyone can do it, any level. You're going to be helping your faction, and you don't have to have good gear or anything else like that. Just sit on a keep wall, hit some people, have fun. Anyways, that's it for me. See you in Tamriel. Okay, highlight out of the way.